Hello and welcome to this edition of SFG Top Performance Feed and Grain Podcast. We're back in studio now after the COVID episodes that we did remotely. So with me this morning I have Kent Watson and Scott Gates from the feed department. My name is Mark White, grain merchandiser for Smith Fertilizer and Grain. We'll start out today with a little update on the grain markets and what we're seeing going on. Earlier this week we had the June WASDE report was released, the supply and demand. Corn, they lowered the beginning stocks 150 million bushels due to increased ethanol and export business that we've seen since the last report. Everything else on the usage side was left alone, so in the bottom line it reduced the carryout, the expected carryout 150 million bushel down to about 1.357 billion bushel, and that's 66 million less than the trade expected, the average trade guess. Somewhat bullish number. I think a lot of the analysts think there's still more needs to be taken out for ethanol and exports. Both are robust things going on right now. Ethanol, we're back to normal usage compared to pre-pandemic times, and we're on the verge of exceeding it a little bit. The ethanol producers are making money. Some of that's thanks to the high price of crude oil. Gasoline prices are getting higher, so that makes the ethanol work a little better, even though they're paying 7+ for the corn. So all in all, the corn looked to be somewhat positive. Beans, they did the opposite, so to speak. They raised the incoming bushels 15 million, not a big amount, but that takes the edge off of the thought that we might run short of beans this summer before a new crop comes in. Similar to corn, they left the usage alone, so when they get down to the bottom line, our expected ending stocks went up 15 million bushel to 135, and that's manageable. Big difference between sub 120 and getting up to 135 gets us through that month of August. Part of that's due to the domestic crush rate has declined the past 2 months. Meal and beans both have been flowing out of South America and taking some of our market share away, which is normal for this time of year. So we look at the old crop, the basis levels for corn have stayed relatively strong for this time of year. End users they're not fighting over stocks yet, but they're making sure they get them lined up. I don't think they've got a lot of coverage as we get into July and August at this point. Meanwhile, on the bean side, basis levels, they haven't collapsed, but they've really had a setback. And part of that is the processors have set in their needs for most of the summer. There's still a question come August whether they can make it to new crop. But with the meal demand backing off a little bit, I could see some plants taking an extended shutdown for maintenance and repairs. They have a habit of doing that at the end of the old crop season to help them get into the new crop. So that's yet to be seen. Meanwhile, new crop prices remain well above average for both corn and beans. Corn still in the mid to upper fives, while beans are in the upper $13 range. Still very attractive prices to get something set in. I know everybody's focused on the hot, dry weather we're experiencing right now, which is somewhat abnormal for this time of year, but I think we gotta look at realistic charts, and they would tell you these are good prices to start locking in a percentage of your crop. The next big report will be later this month, on June 29th. The USDA will release an updated planted acreage report. And that's one of them, if a guy had inside information, you could make a lot of money in a hurry, because there's speculation on both sides. We all know that more acres were planted than expected. It's just a matter of how many and what crop won out. So it'll be interesting to see. Between now and then, we're going to trade weather. Hot, dry weather is in the forecast for the next 10 days at least. The Dakotas got a little bit of rain last night, but it's a little bit, a quarter to an inch. That's not real big when you've been in a drought for well over a year. So we're a long ways from solving anything. Meanwhile, Western Iowa appears they're going to kind of miss a lot of this system that goes through today. The next rain chances are a week away, so it could lead to some interesting times here in the next couple of weeks as we head toward pollination on the corn crop. Well, Kent, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll visit a little bit about what you're seeing with the feed, and I'm sure the pastures are starting to show the effects of some drier weather. What's some things guys can do to help them out?
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Scott real first. We've sort of come up with the same, when we talked about topics for this podcast, we both came up with basically the same thing we wanted to talk with. And so I'll let Scott go ahead and go first this time, and then I'll piggyback off of him. So go ahead, Scott.
All right. Thanks, Kent. First, I want to give a little construction update. I'm still waiting on the new drags and the new leg to show up for the elevator, but the roofers did show up last week, and they put a new roof on top of the old wood elevator. I definitely made a good career choice because there's no way I'd make it as a roofer. It's a long ways up there. So anyway, there's been a lot of hay baled around Milo area the last couple weeks. Reports have been pretty varied. Some's been really good and some not so good. There's a wide range of pasture conditions around Milo also. A lot of producers say their grass is very short. With the heat and the dry weather, it's going to go really fast. So we need to be keeping an eye on the pasture conditions and rotating cows out as needed. Cattle nutrients needs are very high right now. They have a calf at their side and they are on target for breeding. The shortage of rainfall combined with the cold weather this spring earlier made for shorter grass to start with. Now the heat is maturing the grass pretty quickly. As the grass matures, it loses nutrients, specifically protein, allowing cows to lose body condition. Forages fall below 7% protein, you likely don't have enough protein out there to support a cow and her calf. Protein tubs can be used to fill this void. Also, creep feed. Get some creep feed out there. This will help your calves moving forward through the summer. Might be a little early to be talking about this, but with the current conditions, it's going to sneak up on us quickly. These supplements are best if started before cattle start losing body condition. So just keep an eye on them in the pasture. We have to have what our cows need when they need it. If they're not getting it, we will likely see challenges develop it. So if you need any supplements, tubs, creep feed, give us a call. I'm sure we can help you get set up with what you need. That's all I got for you today.
Well, like I said, I'm going to sort of piggyback on what Scott's been talking about. It varies depending on where you're at, but these pastures, start off, right now, by and large, in the Albia area, it'll still look pretty good and green, but like with this temperatures the last week and then the foreseeable outlook, it looks like it's going to be a very hot, dry period here, and so what they're eating now is not getting replaced. So we're going to have to replenish these. This forage, or maximize our utilization as much as possible, especially under these conditions where the commodity prices are almost at an all-time high. So it's pretty tough to sort of start thinking this early about supplementing these animals. But like Scott said, if we start losing condition on these cows, we're going to pay for it later on. So two things, the two products I was going to talk about, just like Scott, is these feed tubs. We've got a multiple assortment of tubs that meet about any type of situation that you might have. But the protein is now going to be becoming more of an issue as the forages start getting not as the nutrition value starts dropping off, and but with the licking action and the buffering that's in these tubs, you can expect to get up to 15% increase in pasture utilization. That can go a long way when things start getting tough. When you start thinking about or start trying to figure out, well, should I be, supplementing these animals? I sort of look at, there's sort of three questions you need to sort of ask yourself. One is, it's going to be profitable? Am I going to get my return on my investment? That's number one by far. The other thing is too, will it lower my risks? And then will it make my life easier? It's tough enough as it is. We've got to look at things that also will help you, not add any more stress to yourself as well. So, and then the creep feeding, right now, you figure a calf needs about 100, for every 100 pounds of body weight, a calf needs 10 pounds of milk. And so you take a 400-pound calf, that's 40 pounds of milk that she needs every day. And on average, a cow will produce about 13 pounds of milk a day over its 205-day lactation period. So, if we can maybe put some of this creep feed in front of these calves, not only will it help increase the body weight on these calves, but it also will help these cows maintain condition and give her a little break as well. So these are two products right now I think we should definitely need to start planning on. Hopefully this weather pattern will change, but I think we better be planning that, expect for the worst, and maybe look at taking a look at these products. So if you have any questions, be sure and come in and visit with us. We're glad to talk to you about them.
Well, thanks, Kent and Scott. I think you bring up some very good topics, and there is quite a difference in our trade territory today. The western side is a lot drier and is showing the suffering for that reason, where the eastern side, there's still some planting going on because they've been delayed with wet weather and poor ground. But southern Iowa has a habit of everybody evens out before it's over, and we don't want to go the wrong way on that. I invite everybody to continue to check in on our SFG website. SFGiowa.com will get you there. We have blogs each week, grain, feed, and agronomy. And we also post our daily markets there for our 7 locations that take grain. Any questions, you can call one of the locations or one of the people you see here on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This ends this edition of the SFG Top Performance.